You made me cry when you said goodbye. Ain't that a shame?
YouTube, knowledge of self-determination. So I'm back with some more Black History every day. And we gotta go back some. And we're going back to February 26th, in the year 1928. Legendary singer Antoine Fats Domino was born. For those of you who are too young to know, and believe me, he was before my time as well, Fats Domino is a legendary blues singer who has had a very long career that spanned decades, a very successful career that spanned decades. He put out some very popular songs, some number one top hits, some Billboard top 40 material type songs. So let's go ahead and get into it, because this one is going to be a little long, but I want to pay the ancestor. Well, I don't believe he's dead yet, so I want to pay the brother the proper respect. So let's go. Fats Domino is an American pianist and singer-songwriter of French Creole descent. 5 of his records released before 1955 sold over 1 million copies and were certified as gold records. And he had 35 records in the U.S. top 40. His musical style is based on traditional rhythm and blues, or more affectionately known as R&B. That's my emphasis, by the way. Accompanied by saxophones, bass, piano, electric guitar, and drums. Born Antoine Domino Jr. on February 26, 1928 in New Orleans, he grew up in a large musical family of 9 children. He began his love affair with the piano at a very young age. Domino taught himself to play with the help from his brother-in-law, Harrison Verrett, a local musician and well-regarded guitarist. He loved all the popular styles of music, boogie, ragtime, and blues. Domino left school in order to focus all of his energies on music. With more than 65 million record sales to his credit, New Orleans singer and pianist Fats Domino outsold every 1950s rock and roll pioneer except Elvis Presley, leaving a profound impact on subsequent generations of musicians. In 1986, he was among the first inductees into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I just want to highlight also, Fats Domino, again, I'm sure most of you guys listening to this have heard of, Elvis Presley. I'm sure most of you guys have. But how many people have heard of Fats Domino? I mean, this man is a legend. And he gets the proper respect due to him from other musicians, especially the ones who are considered legendary. So I'll continue. Introduced to music early in life, he began performing in clubs in his teens, and in 1949 was discovered by Dave Bartholomew, who became Domino's exclusive arranger. After he joined trumpeter Dave Bartholomew's band, with Bartholomew's help, Domino got a deal with Imperial Records, where he recorded his first hit, The Fat Man, in 1949. The song sold 1 million copies nationally, and it was widely regarded as the first rock and roll song to sell at that level. During the early 1950s, Domino, with Bartholomew as co-writer and producer, continued to capitalize on the rising popularity of rock and roll. As one of its earliest artists, he began to make a name for himself with Going Home, 1952, and Going to the River, 1953. Both records sold over 1 million copies. One of Domino's nighttime jobs was at a New Orleans club called The Hideaway, where he earned $3 a week. Now, this is in his earlier life, before he made it big and was discovered. By the age of 19, he had become a fixture there, along with prominent New Orleans pianists such as Professor Longhair and Amos Milburn. Like them, Domino was inspired by the rich musical styles of New Orleans. It was here that he got his first big break. Lou Chud, head of the Los Angeles-based Imperial Records, was touring the city in search of promising new artists when he happened to catch Domino's act. Duly impressed, he quickly signed the young musician to a recording contract and paired him up with Dave Bartholomew of Imperial to write the song that became his signature number and established him forever as Fats in the mind of his fans. Now this is just a couple of sentences, a little bit of info in his early career from the years 1947 to 1948. In the summer of 1947, Billy Diamond, a New Orleans band leader, accepted an invitation to hear the young pianist perform at a backyard barbecue. Domino played well enough that Diamond asked him to join his band, the Solid Cinders, at the Hideaway Club, which I already told you, but this is a little bit of that backstory in New Orleans. Diamond nicknamed him Fats because Domino reminded him of the renowned pianists Fats Waller and Fats Pitcher. Recording for Imperial Records from 1949 to 1962. Domino attracted national attention with his first recording, The Fat Man, made in late 1949 for Imperial Records, an early rock and roll record featuring a rolling piano and Domino vocalizing wah wah over a strong backbeat. The Fat Man sold 1 million copies by 1953. It was widely considered the first rock and roll record to achieve this feat, which I've already read. Domino released a series of hit songs with the producer Dave Bartholomew. Let's see, the saxophonist Herbert Hardesty and Alvin Red Tyler, the bassist Frank Fields, and drummers Earl Palmer and Smokey Johnson. Other notable long-standing musicians in Domino's band were the saxophonists Reggie Houston, Lee Allen, and Fred Camp, Domino's trusted band leader. Domino crossed into the pop mainstream with Ain't That a Shame in 1955, which reached the top 10. Pat Boone's milder cover version reached number 1, having received wider radio airplay in a racially segregated era. Domino eventually had 37 to top 40 singles. Now, let's talk a little bit about the racial segregation during that time. Now, I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with the term the Chitlin circuit, but it is basically the concert circuit tour, or the touring circuit that black musicians, black artists are relegated to. Because the thing is, white people loved the music that black people made in that time, in that era, during the Jim Crow era. They loved the music. They just didn't want to see black people performing. So the record labels would have white guys basically take the lyrics, sing the lyrics in their own way, which is noticeably different from white people, right? And the way they sang. Different instruments, completely different rhythm. It'd be the same lyrics, it'd just be done in their particular way, right? Now, they will go on to make millions off of these songs that they didn't write. And there was a lot of the rock and roll artists, a lot of white rock and roll artists during the Jim Crow era that actually did this. And their careers were catapulted off the backs of black artists, right? So I just wanted to touch on that. He found success in mainstream America with his 1955 song, Ain't It a Shame, which was retitled to what's now widely known, Ain't That a Shame, The Next Shit. Now, that was the song that I was just talking about, that Pat Boone had pretty much ripped off, or the studio basically gave to him to make his career off of. The next year, his cover of Blueberry Hill became his highest charting hit. He solidified his popularity with teenagers when he appeared in 2 films, Shake, Rattle, and Roll, and The Girl Came Back. During his career, Domino endured the challenges of racial discrimination to become one of the defining pioneers of rock and roll music. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1986. A documentary about his life, Fat Domino, and the birth of rock and roll premiered on CBS in 2016. You can probably still find that. I'll put links in the description box. I know some of these sites actually have video of him. You could probably find it in one of those links. It'll be in the description. One more thing though. His song Ain't It a Shame, which was covered by Pat Boone, who recorded it as Ain't That a Shame. Because remember, the original was called Ain't It a Shame. Boone's version hit number 1 on the pop chart, while Domino's original reached number 10. The hit record increased Domino's visibility and record sales. Domino soon recorded it under the revised name, which remains the popular title or version today. It also happens to be the very first song John Lennon ever learned to play on guitar. One of the guys from the Beatles. If you guys have even heard of the Beatles, for some of the younger guys who might be out there. Let's see, Domino's debut album, Carry On Rockin', containing several of his hits and tracks that had not yet been released as singles, was issued under the Imperial Influence, catalog number 90-09, in November 1955, and was reissued as Rock and Roll with Fat Domino in 1956. The reissue reached number 17 on the Billboard Albums chart. His 1956 recording of Blueberry Hill, a 1940 song by Vincent Rowe, Lewis, and Larry Stock, which had previously been recorded by James Archery, Louis Armstrong, and others, reached number 2 in the top 40 and was number 1 on the R&B chart for 11 weeks. It was his biggest hit. Blueberry Hill sold more than 5 million copies worldwide in 1956 and 1957. Domino had further hit singles between 1956 and 59, including When My Dreamboat Comes Home, pop number 14, I'm Walking, pop number 4, Valley of Tears, pop number 8, It's You I Love, pop number 6, Whole Lotta Lovin', pop number 6, I Want to Walk You Home, pop number 8, and Be My Guest, pop number 8. Other recordings with Imperial from 1956 and on, until that is he left Imperial. Shake, Rattle, and Rock, and That Girl Can't Help It. On December 18, 1957, his hit recording of The Big Beat was featured on Dick Clark's television program American Masters. Imperial Records was sold in early 1963 and died later. Quote, I stuck with them until they sold out. End quote. He said in 1979. In all, he recorded over 60 singles for Imperial, placing 40 songs in the top 10 on the R&B chart and 11 in the top 10 on the pop chart. 22 of Domino's Imperial singles were double-sided hits. Still, despite his enormous popularity among both white and black fans when touring the country in the 1950s, Domino and his band were often denied live and had to utilize segregated facilities, at times driving miles away from the venue. These artists should be very fortunate. They should feel very fortunate that they do not have to experience the same shame and degradation, I should say, that artists such as himself and those who were still brave enough and dedicated enough to their craft to remain in the music industry during the Jim Crow era. I just want you guys to take into account how the Jim Crow era affected our people and how hard it was for us and what we had to go through. These things should impact you in a way that helps you to understand what's happening today as well. But Domino moved to ABC Paramount Records in 1963. The label dictated that he record in Nashville, Tennessee rather than Orleans. He was assigned a new producer, Felton Jarvis, a new arranger, Bill Justin. It's like, and a new Bill Justin. Domino's long-term collaboration with the producer, arranger, and frequent co-writer, David Bartholomew, who oversaw virtually all of his imperial hits, was seemingly at an end. He released 11 singles for ABC Paramount, but had only one top 40 entry, Red Sails in the Sunset, 1963. By the end of 1964, the British invasion changes the taste of the record-buying public and Domino's chart running global. Despite the lack of chart success, Domino continued to record steadily until about 1970, leaving ABC Paramount in mid-1965 and recording for Mercury Records. Dave Bartholomew, small Broadmoor label. Let's start that again. David Bartholomew's small Broadmoor label, reuniting with Bartholomew along the way, and Reprise Records. His final top 100 single was for Reprise. A cover of the Beatles' Lady Madonna, which peaked at number 100 in 1968. Domino appeared in the Monkees' television special 33 1/3 Revolution per Monkey in 1969. I actually remember that show. That came out, the Monkees. In like the like mid to late, I think it was maybe the mid 80s to late 80s. The reruns from that show used to come on. So I remember seeing some of those old reruns that used to come on. So anyway, he continued to be popular as a performer for several decades. He made a cameo appearance in the movie Any Which Way You Can, filmed in 1979 and released in 1980, which resulted in a country chart hit, Whiskey Heaven. In the 1980s, Domino decided he would no longer leave New Orleans, having a comfortable income from royalties and a dislike of touring, and claiming he could not get any food that he liked anywhere else. His induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and an invitation to perform at the White House failed to persuade him to make an exception to this policy. As Hurricane Katrina approached New Orleans in August 2005, Domino chose to stay at home with his family, partly because his wife, Rosemary, was in poor health. His house was in an area that was heavily flooded. Some would thought Domino was dead and spray painted a message on his home. R.I.P. Fats, you will be missed, which was shown in news photos. On September 1st, the talent agent Al Embry announced that he had not heard from Domino since before the hurricane struck. Later that day, CNN reported that Domino had been rescued by a Coast Guard helicopter. Until then, even family members had not heard from him since before the storm. Embry confirmed that Domino and his family had been rescued. The family was then taken to a shelter in Baton Rouge, after which they were picked up by Jamarcus Russell, the starting quarterback of the Louisiana State University football team, and the boyfriend of Domino's granddaughter. He let the family stay in his apartment. The Washington Post reported that on September 2nd, they had left Russell's apartment after sleeping 3 nights on the couch. "We've lost everything," quote, Domino said, according to the Post. Domino. Now, just a little bit of the impact that this man's life has had. There's a lot of information. So, like I said, I'll put links in the description box. If you guys are interested, you can look up more on the life of Fats Domino and maybe introduce yourself or reintroduce yourself to some of his music. So, Domino was one of the biggest stars of rock and roll in the 1950s and one of the first R&B artists to gain popularity with white audiences. His biographer, Rick Coleman, argues that Domino's records and tours with rock and roll shows in that decade, bringing together black and white youth in a shared appreciation of his music, was a factor in the breakdown of racial segregation in the United States. So they're crediting, or at least giving partial credit to, integration on him, I suppose, or breaking down some of the barriers of segregation. I guess art can have that effect on people. Anyway, Domino was also an important influence on the music of the 1960s and 70s, and was acknowledged as such by some of the top artists of that era. Elvis Presley introduced Fats at one of his Las Vegas concerts by saying, quote, "This gentleman was a huge influence on me when I started out," end quote. Both John Lennon and Paul McCartney recorded Domino songs. McCartney reportedly wrote the Beatles song Lady Madonna in emulation of Domino's style, combining it with a nod to Humphrey Lyttelton's 1956 hit Bad Penny Blues. Domino returned to the Hot 100 chart for the last time in 1968 with his recording of Lady Madonna. That recording, as well as covers of two other songs by the Beatles, appeared on his reprise album Fats Is Back, produced by Richard Perry and recorded by a band that included the New Orleans pianist James Booker. Domino played on only one track, I'm Ready. Domino was presented in the audience of 2,200 people at Elvis Presley's first concert at the Las Vegas Hilton on July 31st, 1969. At a press conference after the show, when a journalist referred to Presley as the King, Presley gestured toward Domino, who was taking in the scene. "No," Presley said, quote, "That's the real king of rock and roll. That's the real king of rock and roll." So that was just a quick look into the life of legendary rhythm and blues pianist and singer Fats Domino. I think the man was very talented, and I think the era in which he was involved in the music industry really heavy, which would be the Jim Crow era, which, as we know, was a very difficult time for Black and African people in this country. So I hope you guys enjoyed this brief look into the life of Fats Domino. And check out those links in the description box if you guys are curious and you want to know more about him, or maybe even hear some of his music. So it's Knowledge of Self-Determination. It's been another day in Everyday Being Black History. Like, learn, and subscribe, and I'm out. Peace.